Hello and welcome to This Week in Laker Football, your weekly exclusive look into the West Bloomfield Lakers varsity football team on Civic Center TV and 89.3 Lakes FM. I'm Tyler Keefe alongside West Bloomfield Lakers head coach Zach Hilbers, coming off a 7-2 season, an emphatic finish last week at home against Oak Park, 50-6 victory. Tell us about that victory and what you liked from your team last week Friday.
Well, it was really, I think, like the only game I can remember where we really kind of pulled away decisively. You know, there were moments of other games where it looked like we could, and sometimes because of the play of the other team making plays and sometimes us making mistakes, we let people back into games. So it was nice to see us, not do that and kind of finish an opponent off and just end the year on a good note.
And what were some of those things you were looking to improve on that final week? It kind of is a dress rehearsal for playoff time. So as you got into week number 9, went up against Oak Park, a team that has been able to challenge some really good squads this year, what were you looking for out of your team, and what do you think you got out of that plan?
Well, our whole goal was just to work on us, work on our stuff, and make sure we limited our mistakes. And we just did our stuff correctly, I guess, to put it simply. Because, when it comes down to it, to win in the playoffs against good teams, you're going to have to play good, clean football. So that was our focus, and, hopefully we'll find out if that put us in a good spot.
What was really nice about your performance on Friday on the offensive side was the rushing game was incredible. 260 yards on the ground on Friday. That's well over 100 yards beyond the season average for your team. What was the difference maker in the rushing game on Friday?
I guess the focus and the emphasis that we put on it, because, as the weather turns in the state of Michigan, you get further and further, hopefully, into the playoffs, you need to be able to run the football. And, passing can almost become a luxury for some games. So we really wanted to make sure that by the end of the year we could run the ball effectively. So I guess that was a really encouraging thing.
And whether it's been Samaj Morgan in the past, Lance Dixon years ago, the jet sweep's been one of the hallmarks of this West Bloomfield Lakers offense for a long time. It seems like the next guy in that line over the last few weeks has been Marquise Morris, over 130 rushing yards and 4 touchdowns in the past 2 weeks. How much of a difference maker has he been for you in that jet sweep game over the last couple weeks, and will he continue to be through playoff time?
Yeah, you're right. It's been a big part of our offense since about 2015 or so. And when that's really working, we think that we're pretty tough to defend because we try to attack all aspects of the field, with obviously the jet being one part of it, just stretching the field horizontally. And Marquise, he's playing with a lot of confidence right now, which is a great thing because we knew he always had the ability, and his ability to stop and start and change direction. And now he's making the right cuts at the right time, and you can just see him running, I guess, confidently, and he's might be a little guy, but he's hard to tackle for a little guy. So he's done a really good job. Cameron Flowers has done a good job, and Josh Tate's done it in the past for us too. So we got multiple guys that we can go to that we feel confident they'll get it done.
Now, whether was Marquise Morris or Josh Tate on the ground, even Cameron Flowers getting a lot of action on the ground last week, Rick Nance in those quarterback draws, your offensive line was doing great, opening up big holes for your runners and also creating a pocket that sustained itself for what seemed like forever for Rick Nance all game long. Yeah,
they're doing a good job. They're really coming along. We got a couple sophomores up there, and one it was a new starter at the beginning of the year to varsity, and Dwayne Broom has really come a long way and done a good job. And football, it can be really complex, but it can also be really easy. You have to be able to block, you have to be able to tackle, and if those guys are blocking, we think we got a shot.
Lakers coming into this playoff season 7-2 overall in the regular season. They'll begin on Friday against the familiar foe in Rochester Adams. The first game of the playoff season is at home at West Bloomfield High School Friday night, 7 o'clock. We'll have coverage for you on TV, on WBTV, the West Bloomfield School District's channel, Comcast Channel 19, and AT&T Channel 99, and of course on the radio on 89.3 Lakes FM. Coach, last week the defense also stellar throughout the game, just 6 points allowed. Most of the yards that were able to be accumulated by Oak Park were in the rushing game, and most of those late in the game too. Speak to your defense and how they've really been able to tighten things up over the last few weeks.
Well, they've come a long way. Because of injuries early in the year, we had a lot of younger guys playing, or maybe people playing new positions or out of position, frankly. And, now they have game experience there, and we're lined up right, and we're confident in our assignment, and we're doing it at the appropriate speed. When something's new to you, sometimes you might even know what to do, but you're in a processing state, I guess, out there in the field. And with the caliber of teams that we play and the speed that things happen, if you're processing in the moment and something's happening, like, you're going to be a step behind. So I think we're just a little bit more confident in what we're supposed to do, and those guys have gotten experience, and it makes them look like better players, when in reality, in my opinion, like, they've always been good players. It's just now they're performing at their potential.
Zach Hilbers with us, the head coach of the West Bloomfield Lakers, as they prepare for Friday night's first playoff game in Division I at home against Rochester Adams. Plenty of familiar foes in this region for the West Bloomfield Lakers, and hopefully a long playoff season ahead. We'll take a quick break. On the other side, we'll talk to some of the assistant coaches helping to get the players position by position ready for playoff time, and then later on, Coach Hilbers will rejoin us and we'll preview another matchup with the Rochester Adams Highlanders. Stay with us this week in Laker football. We'll return next on Civic Center TV and 89.3 Lakes FM. Guyton fakes the handoff, gonna take it himself. Met by Espy in the backfield, hit and then taken down. Not gonna get to the line to gain, and it'll be 4th down for the Knights.
Your West Bloomfield Lakers football team is back in the playoffs. Join us for live coverage of all postseason on the West Bloomfield School District's TV channel, WBTV, Comcast Channel 19, and AT&T Channel 99. All offseason, all Lakers, all the way to Ford Field. Laker playoff football exclusively on WBTV and 89.3 Lakes FM.
Well, I got my start in officiating when a friend told me I should try it. At first I just did basketball, and I got hooked. Before long, I added baseball, softball, football, and volleyball. I really enjoy giving back to the game, working with kids, and working with my local association to recruit and train new officials. I would like to say to anybody that officiating is a great way to help kids and stay connected to the game. We always need new officials. There's help wanted, just listen.
This is Civic Center TV and 89.3 Lakes FM. On cable and the radio. On the web too, and on social media. Civic Center TV, television that's close to home.
Welcome back to This Week in Laker Football, your weekly exclusive look into the West Bloomfield Lakers varsity football team on Civic Center TV and 89.3 Lakes FM. I'm Tyler Keefe, joined now by West Bloomfield Lakers offensive line coach John Paul Morris. It's been an impressive season offensively for the Lakers, especially last week, that 50-6 victory at home to finish off the regular season. And with the rushing game over the last two games averaging well over 100 yards, rushing been 100 yards beyond their average per game rush last week against Oak Park. And the passing game been fantastic all season long. All comes back to that offensive line. Talk about your offensive line in 2023 and how it's been able to help this offense facilitate some very big plays all season long.
Yeah, I appreciate that. The offensive line honestly has been playing a lot better since the year started. We had a lot of young guys. We got some sophomores, some juniors that are getting some serious PT. So it's just honestly good to see them develop. They've come a long way, especially in the running game. They had the steps down. They were good in their stances. Now it's just kind of perfecting even the littler things like hand placement, stuff like that. So as the season went on, those guys really wanted to work. So that was easy as a coach, If you want to be coached, I would love to coach you, So that's just kind of how I look at things. So overall, just like to say, man, the offensive line is just they're getting better every day. They're getting better every day, every week. So just hopefully we can build on that leading into the playoffs.
Eddie Wilson and his defensive line, they are really tough to go up against week in and week out. And your guys get to see them every single day in practice. And so for them, I'd imagine that makes practices really tough, but also gets them really well prepared for Friday night.
Oh, yeah, especially, we got two young sophomores at tackle right now with Jeremiah Benson and Travis. So just the ability to go against the Brandons and the JGs and the X's every day during practice, that it's only getting them better. I push them too. I'm like, hey, you guys have to push them as well. It has to be equal recipients. So you can't just be getting better, right? Make him better as well. So every day just going into practice ready to work, and they've been doing that.
Looking at this roster coming into this season, a really veteran offensive line last year, the last couple of years, losing a lot of guys, the key guy being Amir Herring, graduating and moving on to the University of Michigan. And so that offensive line's youth was a question mark coming into this season, but they've been really impressive all year long. What's been the key to their improvement, both from the jump being great from week one onward and getting better, it seems, every single week?
I can really attest that to Alexander Walton. He's my senior right guard right now. He always comes to practice just letting those guys know, like, hey, look, there's stuff that we can get better on today. What do you want to work on? And then they tell him, obviously they relay it to me, and then we work on that, And so just overall, his senior experience, coming in, I was a defensive guy in college, so I wasn't really an offensive line guy, but I had a lot of friends on the offensive line, so I knew the X's and O's. But obviously, playing, I hadn't played since high school. So just making sure that those guys, went in every day knowing that, if we practice hard, you're going to get better. It sounds repetitive, but it's the truth, So just overall, just the senior leadership, them coming to practice just and working, is really the main thing that's you can make that jump.
Having been a defensive player in the past, as you mentioned, and not having experience in the past as an offensive lineman, how has that other experience helped you as a coach to get these players prepared for what they're going to be facing from defenses and help them learn that position going forward?
Yeah, no. Honestly, just I know as a defensive lineman the keys and stuff that I would look at as an offensive lineman to see if, maybe he was pulling, or if I can get a key indicator if he's stepping to the left or stepping to the right. So stuff like that, obviously, if I can relay that message to them, they can apply it to their game. So if the defense is trying to read keys or look at stuff, they won't show it, and that obviously a lot of them have gotten better at that, not tilting as much if they're going over in one direction, Those little indicators don't seem like much, but in the game, that it does make a big difference. So as long as I can kind of tell them, like, what I looked for as a defensive lineman, how I wanted to win, obviously they want them to lose. So just making sure that they know exactly, all the keys that I looked for, and then just so they don't necessarily use it in the game.
Offensive line coach John Paul Morris is with us on This Week in Laker Football. The Lakers playing Rochester Adams to kick off playoff time Friday night, 7 o'clock kickoff. Our coverage will begin about 6:30 on WBTV, the West Bloomfield School District's TV channel, on Comcast Channel 19 and AT&T Channel 99, as well as on the radio on 89.3 Lakes FM. And John Paul will talk to Coach Hilbers about this in a little bit next week, about preparing for a team that you've already seen this season. From the offensive line standpoint, a tough defense to go up against in Rochester Adams that loves to attack the interior in particular. How do you prepare for that a second time around? What sort of changes in your approach or in the player's approach goes into game planning and then into approaching practice coming into this week's game?
Obviously, being a team is nice. Playing them again, it's very hard to beat a team 2 times. So just obviously not making sure that they know we can't look at certain plays and expect that play is necessarily going to be the same way, or that player is going to come with the same motor that he did, because they did lose. So in reality, they're going to come with a chip on their shoulder. They're going to come harder. Those blitzes are probably going to come a little quicker. So just communication. That's the big thing that I've been working on this week with the guys. If you guys can communicate from center to tackle, both tackles, it makes the job a lot easier. Picking up blitzes, making sure you guys all know your assignment. If you don't know, ask the guy next to you. Stuff like that, man, especially playoff football, it's very key to make the right decision. A mistake can cost the season. So just making sure that those guys know that, yes, this may have they played it before, but we have to prepare for another way if they do it as well.
This offensive line plays the way it's played in the last couple of weeks against Rochester Adams on Friday. It's going to be a tough matchup for the Highlanders coming back into the swamp, and it's going to be tough for any team to beat this Lakers team if the offensive line is playing its game at its highest level. John Paul, thank you so much for being with us.
Yeah, thank you very much.
We'll take a break on This Week in Laker Football. On the other side, we'll preview Rochester Adams alongside head coach Zach Hilbers. Stay with us. This Week in Laker Football continues next on Civic Center TV and 89.3 Lakes FM. 20 seconds. And dropping down for Rick Nance and company on 3rd and goal. 21-0. Nance, quarterback draw, gets a hold, gets 6 points. Touchdown, WB.
Missed one of our live broadcasts or one of your local municipal meetings? Check it out online at civiccentertv.com. Every meeting, show, and interview on demand. Thank you for watching and listening to Civic Center TV and 89.3 Lakes FM. Take a break and tune in to the Splash Live on Civic Center TV and 89.3 Lakes FM. Join Tyler Keefe and Diane Shaban as they go through headlines, events, and update you on the day-to-day in Oakland County. Catch us live Monday through Friday, 8:30 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. Watch us on demand at civiccentertv.com. Or watch us on TV at Comcast Channel 15 or AT&T at Channel 99. This is Civic Center TV and 89.3 Lakes FM. On cable and the radio. on the web too, and on social media. Civic Center TV, television that's close to home.
Welcome back to This Week in Laker Football, your exclusive week-to-week look into the West Bloomfield Lakers varsity football team on Civic Center TV and 89.3 Lakes FM. I'm Tyler Keefe alongside West Bloomfield Lakers head coach Zach Hilbers. Lakers 7-2 regular season. That's all behind them. It's a fresh new start as the Division I playoffs in the MHSAA begin on Friday, and it's a familiar foe in Rochester Adams. Not entirely surprising to see some familiar teams early on in the playoffs, but is it how unique of a challenge is it to game plan for a team that you've already seen and has already seen you?
Yeah, and we know each other really well. We've played each other a ton, as I'm sure you know. But they've been in our league. They've been an adversary for a long time. So it felt really good week 5 to kind of get over the hump and beat them. But it was a close game, and to have to play them again, it's going to bring its own set of challenges. You can't get complacent just because we won the first time, and I know they've been working on themselves. I've been watching them. They look like they've gotten a lot better. So hopefully we have too, because we're going to need to bring it.
And it's an interesting dynamic, too, because it goes back into the recent history of this rivalry. 2 seasons ago, they come into West Bloomfield and kind of give the Lakers a stunner in week 1 at home, and then you go out there for the regional semifinal on a very cold and rainy night and very narrowly lose that game in a 1-point matchup in Rochester. Now you have a chance to kind of do the same thing, but it presents a unique challenge. Beating a team twice in the season is tough at any level, including at the high school level where, like you said, kids are getting better every single week.
Yeah, and absolutely right. And when you win week 1 or the first time you play, it's great, but also on the other side of it, Rochester Adams can look at, this is what they used to beat us. You know what I mean? And they can work on those specific things. And, we're kind of in a position where we have to do what worked, what we feel worked against them, and we want to scrap what didn't work. But you can't just rely on that because that's probably what they're, gearing up to stop. So you're in a situation, I guess, where if you don't do what worked the first time, you kind of feel like an idiot, but you also have to have contingency plans and backups ready to go because the guys on the other side of the ball are trying to stop what hurt them the first time.
And the first time around, Rhino Waters, their quarterback, was really in the early portions of his career as the quarterback at Rochester Adams, and he played an excellent game when he came in here in week 5, was able to rush the ball really well from the quarterback position, and he's got a lot of weapons, too, that weren't really getting too much involved in that game, credit to your defense, back in week 5. So as you're adjusting for these players getting better as the season go on, how do you help to get your players on the right page about guys they've already seen weeks ago?
Well, you just put it on like the last couple of weeks. You can see their quarterback Waters. He's playing a lot better. He's playing a lot more confident, and he'd only started 4 games, I think it was, and we played him, and now he's played 9, and that's twice as many. And he looks more confident. He's running harder. He's throwing the ball better. So he's a good athlete and he's a really good player. So we just have to be able to, rise to that level.
That becomes a really huge part of being able to compete at the playoff level on this side of the season. We've talked about this all year long, the youth on your team really stepping up, particularly on the defensive side, but we've seen in recent weeks, even on the offensive side, getting some guys down the depth chart, like Jamal Shakespeare at the quarterback position, filling in near the ends of some games for Rick Nance. And Caleb Caudle's been having a really interesting couple of weeks, being a target down the field. We saw that late touchdown from him a week ago. How does that help you adjust your game plan going into playoff time, especially considering a lot of those guys were not players that we're seeing and matched up against in week 5 against Rochester Adams?
Well, you brought up 2, and it's really you could have probably brought up 7 or 8, just because there's a lot of guys that have stepped up to the challenge. And Caleb, we're really proud of how far he's come from not playing much weeks 1 and 2 to he really worked and got after it, and he's been seeing not only the field but success in the field, which is a great thing. It's what you want as a coach, to see kids realize they have a goal, they don't have what they want, put a plan forward to work for it and get it done. That's a great thing. But what it does for us as a team, it gives us a chance to, have all these guys ready to go. If you want to play for 5 more weeks, hopefully, and get to Ford Field, that's half a season. And, if someone goes down, we need people ready to go. If things are going sideways and the game plan's not working like we want to be able to adjust. And those guys being ready to play is a big part of that.
You mentioned earlier on this segment, Coach Hilbers, it's a fresh start. It's so to speak, a new season. I've seen many players on their social media recently basically say the same sort of sentiment. And it's interesting because when you think about this season, it is a fresh start. Every single team has had their successes and have experienced their failures, but they're in the playoffs. It's a lot different, though, because in the regular season, you can have those failures and adjust the next week. In the playoffs, you have a bad game, you have an off week, you're going home. So how do you adjust your players to the pressure of this time of the year, especially considering the youth on your roster in this particular season?
Well, there's definitely finality to it, and I told some of the younger guys, the seniors get on you this week. It's because if we don't do our job Friday, they're done, right? And they're going to hold you accountable just like we are as coaches. And yesterday was a great day of practice, so I hope that feeling kind of goes forward. And, for our younger guys that are playing, they are pretty emotionally mature, and I think they at least understand that and respect our senior class and have done a really good job, I guess, preparing themselves for that moment. Because you're right, we'll need them and we'll need everybody because, it's a fresh start for us, but it's a fresh start for Rochester Adams and anybody else you might play too.
Brand new season, several weeks ahead, and as you look toward the postseason and the talent you have on this team, it's different to have talent versus have a championship team. So as you go into playoff time, what are you preaching to your players this week about what they need to do, how they need to behave, how they need to perform to be championship level players, not just talented high school players in the postseason?
Yeah, it's a great point and a great question. Because what I've said to the guys earlier this week is, look, we've proved with our schedule and how we've played that we can go beat good teams. We can compete with good teams and we can beat good teams. But if we don't do it consistently now, your season's over. So, what goes into that? Your preparation goes into that. Your ability to withstand the adversity in game time goes into that. Your decision-making goes into that. There's obviously a lot of factors and a lot of variables. But when at the end of the day, that's the job, is to go out there and get it done.
Coach Hilbers from the West Bloomfield Lakers varsity football team with us on This Week in Laker Football. You can tune in to the Lakers playoff opener on Friday night, 7 o'clock kickoff. Our coverage will begin at about 6:30 on WBTV, the West Bloomfield School District's TV channel. Comcast Channel 19 and AT&T Channel 99 will also be live on the radio on 89.3 Lakes FM. No web broadcasts throughout the playoffs. The MHSAA does have exclusivity and that rate through the NFHS network, but we are on local TV. Comcast Channel 19 and AT&T Channel 99. Coach, your final thoughts as we approach playoff time and a really interesting matchup on Friday night opening up against Rochester Adams.
Well, it's exciting and it's nerve-wracking because the potential the team has, and that's a great thing because if we do what we are capable of, we have a chance to go out there and win a few games and make a run at it. But at the same time, if you don't do what you're capable of, you got a lot of kids and, coaches that are going to be upset. And that's probably a good thing because, we care and we're invested, but it's a lot. And, we're just really excited about the opportunity to go out there and, hopefully do our job.
At the helm as the head coach this time around, you've been here for nearly 20 years as a coach on the other side and in the past as a player preparing for this point in the season. How is it different this time around as the head coach getting ready for that first playoff game?
To be honest, I'm trying not to think about it being different, trying to do the exact same stuff that we've done because, it's worked in the past. Not every year, obviously, but, we've had some success with playoff runs. So we just want to, trust the process, as, people in Philadelphia would say. But, hopefully our process gets us where we want to go.
All right, the Lakers process begins on Friday night, 7 o'clock kickoff. The Highlanders of Rochester Adams coming back into town for the second matchup of the season against the West Bloomfield Lakers. Kickoff at 7 o'clock. Our live coverage, Matt Catoni and I, will begin at about 6:30 on WBTV, Comcast Channel 19, AT&T Channel 99, and on the radio on 89.3 Lakes FM. For the entire West Bloomfield Athletic Department, we thank them and thank you for joining us and our team at Civic Center TV. I'm Tyler Kieft. This has been This Week in Laker Football.